darker than you thought. That is the name of a Bloomberg article that we will be going over in this live stream. And I know no one's in the room right now, but even though this is a live stream, we're there's not going to be a whole lot of chatting and stuff like that. There's just some. This is a very, very interesting article. In fact, a critic might even call it a riveting read. A really riveting read. It has a lot of stuff in here that we did not know, and it kind of confirms some of my suspicions, and I'm going to talk about them. And you know what? Depending on how this goes, well, I might even edit this video into a future video to be shorter and more precise. But if you want to know how interesting this article is the very first paragraph describes a meeting that the Uber investors had in a hotel conference room in San Francisco, and they were trying to convince their chief executive officer, Travis Kalanick, that the company had a major problem. Him. The executives were armed that day with something unusual for Uber Technologies, Inc., the results of a survey. Kalanick operated by gut feeling and with a stubborn sense of how people should feel, not how they did. Jeff Jones, Uber's new president and former chief marketing officer for Target Corp, wanted more substantial insights. Conclusions drawn from the survey were printed and hanging on the walls. About half the respondents had a positive impression of Uber and its convenient ride-hailing app. But if respondents knew anything about Kalanick, an inveterate flouter of both workplace conventions and local transportation laws, they had a decidedly negative view. Oh, somebody gave me $2. Thank you, whoever. Oh, Sleeping Elephant. Thank you. And as the article goes on, it shows that Kalanick got contentious and defensive like he normally does. But then a top executive excused herself to answer a phone call. A minute later, she asked Kalanick to step into the hallway. And another executive joined them. They hunched over a laptop to watch a video that had just been posted online by Bloomberg News. Grainy black and white dashcam footage of Kalanick in the backseat of an Uber Black on Super Bowl weekend, heatedly arguing over fares with a driver named Fawzi Kamel. Quote, some people don't like to take responsibility for their own stuff. Kalanick can be heard yelling at Kimmel. They blame everything in their life on somebody else. I told you it was a good article. As the clip ended, the three stood in stunned silence. Kalanick seemed to understand that his behavior required some form of contrition. According to a person who was there, he literally got down on his hands and knees and began squirming on the floor. This is bad, he muttered. I'm terrible. Now, here's my own words. You would think at this point, Kalanick would realize this is a dawning moment. His actions are being shown right in his face. He sees the magnitude of the problem. It's as clear as day. You couldn't be more clear that he was wrong if someone was telling them he was wrong. He's seeing his own behavior for himself. And now for the live stream, folks. What do you think he did after this? After he fell on his knees on the ground, squirming, and muttered, this is bad, I'm terrible. What do you think Kalanick did next? Seriously, I would love to know, because we do have what he did next, but I want to see what a sane person, what a normal person would do in this situation. How would they respond after this revelation? Let's see here. He's a child, period. Well, got back up and acted like Jason says, got back up and act like it never happened. Miss Texas says, what man would get down on his hands and knees? Intuition Man said D, none of the above. Crystal says, good afternoon, Kevin. Oh, well, good afternoon. So, well, I'll tell you what Kalanick did. With stupid behavior, he prayed. Robin said he prayed. I'm going to flip. I would change my Huggies, get on the driver, offered the driver 200,000 K. Little ahead of the story, I think. But hey, hater man, here's what he did, and I'm gonna flip the camera just so you can read it with me. Right here under I'm terrible. Then contrition period over. He got up, called a board member, demanded a new PR strategy, and embarked on a year-long starring role as the villain who gets his comeuppance in the most gripping startup drama since the dot-com bubble. It's a story that, until now, has never fully been told. It was time to do the PR spin. That was Kalanick's response. And this is a huge article, folks. This is a very big article. In fact, it even has this wonderful illustration. Wonderful illustration. I mean, God, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. Doesn't that just say it all right there? But that's what happened. And there's so many things in this article that are just amazing. Amazing. I'm going to skip the whole stuff about the Trump Advisory Board because that's not really important, because a lot of this first it tells stories of a man who actually alienated a lot of his former friends. Here's an interesting thing, because what the first paragraph told me, and this was my first validation that I was right, Jones did set Travis Kalanick aside. Because here's the thing, Jeff Jones got a bad rap in all of this. He got a very bad rap. He moved from Target to join Uber, and then he left a few months later, and people complained that he wasn't very good at his job. Even Harry Campbell said, he wasn't really good at his job. And I suspected, personal suspicion, of course, but I suspected that Kalanick tied his hands, that he left because Kalanick you couldn't deal with him. The first paragraph suggests that he goes to Kalanick with hard data, and then they find this clip, and it's like, well, time to move on. Well, here's another thing that was discussed in this article, because Jones, the president who had commissioned the public survey, resigned in March after only 6 months on the job, citing differences over beliefs and approach to leadership. I made a video about that, by the way. In exit interviews with Uber board members, he was more specific, exonerating, I'm sorry, I know I'm getting that word wrong, but yeah, excoriating, whatever it is. Kalanick's shotgun management style and unwillingness to listen. Jones seemed so eager to leave the company that he declined to negotiate an exit package, potentially leaving millions of dollars behind. Which is saying something. So I think Jeff Jones, maybe he could have been a good boss for us. Maybe he could have. I don't know. But because of Kalanick, didn't happen. Also, Google too should have been in LA. The company invested in Uber in 2013 and 4 years later owned a stake worth billions. But the two companies began to look more like competitors as both raced to build self-driving cars. What might have remained a friendly rivalry soured irrevocably when Uber bought the self-driving trucking startup Otto for more than $600 million in stock. Most of Otto's core employees were former Googlers, led by their own brash co-founder Anthony Lewandowski. Google co-founder Larry Page had already grown loath Kalanick. He was now fuming. Miss Texas said, I have to pause for a second. Miss Texas here says, no one leaves millions behind unless they are scared about something, which is true. That is absolutely true. Also, according to the article, Sail Yu, does anyone remember Sail Yu? She was Uber's general counsel. And As the article states, she was typically not someone inclined to challenge her boss, which was Kalanick. But she expressed, and I quote, serious reservations about the deal, according to two people familiar with the discussions. Kalanick's top deputy, business chief Emil Michael, stayed away from the transaction. He didn't think it made much financial sense and risked a backlash from Google. So basically, everybody at Uber knew that this was a bad deal, except Kalanick. So, and yeah, there's a lot of people making fun of Travis, and I knew that was coming, and I totally welcome it. Kalanick is not a very popular man in these circles, that's for certain, or he's popular for all the wrong reasons. So, here's another fun thing about that auto deal. Kalanick, who says he never read the investigator's report. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one. But they hired Uber actually had hired private investigators to look into auto. And this is, by the way, what companies do. They want to make sure that the companies are not being investigated for anything. According to the private investigators, they had learned that Lewandowski had possessed 5 disks of data from Google's driverless efforts and other information that included source code, design files, laser files, engineering documents, and software related to Google's self-driving cars. And Lewandowski told the investigators he destroyed the disks, the claim that they said they couldn't verify, of course. Kalanick, who said he never read the investor's report, went forward with the deal anyway. And he agreed to protect Lewandowski from legal attacks by Google. Yeah. Now, here's my question for that. You hire investigators to do an investigator's report, to look up on the deals. They find very, very strange evidence that something's wrong. And yet, he buys it anyway. Now, I know, like, the news story is old, but that's a detail we didn't know. And this is why I'm kind of going over the article, kind of just to reaffirm what you and I already know. True. But also to kind of be like a little time capsule, like, having the Uber driver read on YouTube, on camera, all the things that people knew about, that they also knew about, that they let happen. And it's just, yeah. And there so many people at the company recommended that they not stand by Lewandowski, which eventually, I think after Kalanick resigned, they officially weren't. I don't think they are anymore, but anyway. It's, here's a funny quote, because by the time the outcry began for all these problems, at Goldman and Sachs and Wells Fargo, they all wear shirts, and apparently for a while Uber shirts were really popular. According to them, until 2017, you could go into Uber on any given day, and half the t-shirts were Uber t-shirts, said one executive. They disappeared overnight. People didn't want to wear Uber stuff. That's pretty amazing. Uber employees, they didn't want to wear their own merchandise. Heyo. And here's the story that broke recently. And this is the story that kicked off this article, along with a bunch of other articles. And this is something that some of you guys might not know, because at one point, that driver that he publicly berated on that video camera, well, that had to be dealt with. According to the article, Kalanick was unable or unwilling to right himself. If anything, his judgment deteriorated. He decided that he should apologize privately to Camille, the driver he berated on video. The plan was simple. Meet with Camille at some neutral and non-threatening location, engage in 5 minutes of pleasantries, say sorry, and leave. That's all he had to do. The meeting went on for more than an hour, with Kalanick re-debating Camille over Uber's pricing policies. Somehow, by the end, Kalanick suggested that he give the driver Uber stock, according to people familiar with the discussion. Now, some of you might say, well, that sounds like it's going to work out really great for the driver, but there was a problem with that for Uber's end. When Wayne Ting, that's his name, guys, sorry, who ran Uber's San Francisco business, was in the room with Kalanick and Camille. In an email later circulated among employees and directors, Ting said he was deeply disturbed by what he saw. He told people he called his own father to seek moral counsel. He worried that paying the driver off with Uber's own shares was financially irresponsible. Would Uber compensate all of its drivers who felt mistreated? To Ting, the incident reeked of a lack of self-control. In the email, he wrote that Kalanick no longer had the moral standing to lead Uber. After Uber's lawyers insisted the company wouldn't pay Camille to clean up Kalanick's personal scandal, Kalanick agreed to pay Camille $200,000 out of his own pocket. So here, I was getting to that. According to a person familiar with the matter, the meeting ended on a positive note, and Travis appreciated Mr. Camille's openness and forgiveness. A spokesperson for Kalanick said in a statement. Yeah, I bet he does. You see, here's the thing, and this is for all situations. I don't care what it is. When someone says, we hear your grievances and concerns, and we would like you to do something about it. Unless you do something about it, you might as well not listen at all. You might as well not have listened at all, in my opinion. And this is why I'm definitely hard on Kalanick. This is why we're doing a live stream. I'm dedicating a whole live stream just to insulting Kalanick, because he was told over and over what he was doing to people, and he decided not to do anything about it. He decided to do nothing about it whatsoever. And I don't accept that. I never have. Like, I wouldn't accept that from my own family. I sure as heck don't accept it from him. So, anyway, and as for this leaving on a positive note, I don't know what to say to that either. Yeah. So, let's scroll down a little bit more, because some of this is a little old. But apparently, what really started to do Travis in, and I know some people say, well, how could he have fallen? He's a billionaire now. He sold a lot of his shares. He cashed out on $1.4 billion. And yeah, that's not fair. I mean, that's not fair to us, at least. And, I mean, the guy will probably never work again unless he forms another company, but, But apparently at one point, and this was where some people from Benchmark and stuff start coming in, they started getting really uncomfortable with the way the company is being ran. Particularly someone named Bill Gurley. He's actually really important to Kalanick losing his power, because he had a contentious relationship with Kalanick, and then at one point, after he had invested billions of dollars into the company, like embrace your baldness. Sorry, I just had to point that one out. Gurley is boy, is that how you pronounce his name? Gurley. Wow. I'm sorry. That is that's an unfortunate name. Gurley. Let's just call him Bill from now on. I feel bad calling him Gurley at this point. But it says, in March, after years of trying, Bill finally got himself appointed to the board's audit committee and learned of the steep losses in Uber's subprime vehicle leasing divisions, which helped its drivers finance cars. Bill's cheerleading turned into anxiety and then horror. Benchmark's stake in Uber was worth billions. Could that fall by half? Could it fall to zero? Would they all end up in court? People at Benchmark worried that the Uber situation was affecting Bill's health. So, let's see here. And at this point, things got real. It got really real. Because after he talked to several executives, they wrote a letter to the board urging that Kalanick take a leave of absence. And Bill was ready to consider it. The directors met on Sunday, June 11th at the Los Angeles office of the Holder's firm, Covington & Burling. They reviewed Holder's report, which detailed not only a sequence of sexual harassment incidents at the company, but also a culture of legal noncompliance that systematically equated rule following with bureaucracy and failure. The board voted to adopt Holder's 47 recommendations, including rewriting Uber's absurdly bro-ish culture values, restricting the consumption of alcohol at company events, and instituting an anonymous complaints process for employees. There was no discussion about asking Kalanick to resign, but the board agreed to a temporary sabbatical for the CEO on his own terms because, and this also does confirm another thing, the one thing I kind of do have to give Kalanick credit for, that 3-month sabbatical was because of his mother dying. His mom just died, his dad's in the hospital, and he needed to take some time. And that was one of the few times where I actually was not hard on the guy because that's a tough thing. So, hey Barry, what's going on? I think he wants to play. So, you look better without the beanie. What does Katie prefer? I don't wear this thing around her. There's a reason I wear the beanie, guys. We just haven't gotten to that subscriber count yet. That reveals why. So, anyway, let's hear. So, at this point, this is where the story gets really fun. And I didn't realize this, and I had to admit, when I was reading the article, I was kind of on the same page as them. But in a meeting at the firm's office in Woodside, California, a few days after Kalanick went on leave, Bill and his partners came to a decision. Kalanick had to go for good. They quietly reached out to other investors, First Round Capital, Menlo Ventures, Fidelity Investments, and Lowercase Capital, which all called meetings of their respective partnerships. 5 signed a letter imploring Kalanick to resign. On June 20th, Benchmark dispatched 2 partners, Matt Kohler and Peter Fenton, to confront Kalanick in Chicago, where he was interviewing Walter Robb, the former co-CEO of Whole Foods Market, Inc., for the open COO spot. The venture capitalist surprised Kalanick at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and presented him with a letter titled Moving Uber Forward. Sounds familiar, right? It accused him of a number of leadership missteps that put the company in legal peril. It asked for his resignation as CEO and to relinquish the board seats he controlled. Miss Texas, is that for me or someone else? Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, it's my live stream, so if it's for me, I'm just go. I see. Well, if Rick is bothering you that much, there you go. We'll just do that. So, anyway, letter's been delivered. And Benchmark viewed its letter as an opening gambit. The firm and the other investors represented only about 40% of Uber's voting shares. Not enough to force a resignation, but it had other kinds of leverage. Kohler and Fenton told Kalanick he had a few hours before they went public with their allegations. They also said that if he resigned, they would tell the world he had quit on his own terms. Kalanick spent the next few hours in a panic, Consulting with Rob and calling allies, lawyers, and investors in the late afternoon, Huffington called Kalanick and prodded him to step aside. Which you might remember when I made a video about this. Well, we'll get to that in a second. The two agreed that the letter was the first move in a lawsuit for fraud and the likely start of a bitter fight for control that would further damage the company he helped build. Kalanick later told friends that after 5 months of pummeling, he lacked the energy for another fight. So, to the surprise of the two Benchmark partners and Bill, who saw little chance that he would let go of his power, Kalanick signed the documents at the Ritz in Chicago. Now, I don't know how long you guys have been watching my channel, but I made a lot of videos about this when it was happening. A lot. And I actually wondered, because he said after consulting with a close confidant, he had decided to step aside for it would be the good of the company. I suspected that was Arianna Huffington. Turns out I was right. It was Huffington. Huffington was the one who got Kalanick to resign. That's who it was. And I knew it in my heart of hearts. It's nice to have it confirmed. It's also interesting that that the letter actually didn't have much chance of succeeding, so Kalanick did have to willingly step down. They couldn't force him at this point. But, as the article states, Uber being Uber, nothing went scripted, and this would actually explain the 180 that Kalanick had with Uber. Because keep in mind, we're now at the point of the story where Kalanick realizes he is losing a lot of ground and he could face legal action against him. So he willingly resigns. And he's doing it under the condition that it will be told to the public that he left on his own accord. So what happened? What happened here? Well, here's what happened. The New York Times ran a detailed story about the resignation, infuriating Kalanick. What he believed was going to be a graceful departure now looked like the Benchmark administrator ouster it actually was. And by the way, in all those videos, I called it. I said this is not him leaving willingly. This is him getting fired. And I used, to maybe my regret, a lot of Donald Trump pictures. It was like, you fired, on videos that I did on this, because I didn't believe for a second Kalanick had left of his own accord. And this totally proves it. He didn't leave. He was forced out. So, because of that New York Times article, Kalanick reneged on his agreement to let go of his board seat and the two others he controlled. He also began calling early Uber employees, asking whether he'd have their support should he call for a shareholder vote. The shareholder vote being basically to try to reinstate him into power. On August 10th, Benchmark's co-ruler started contacting his board members from a safari in Africa to alert them. Benchmark was suing Kalanick in Delaware court, accusing him of fraud and of breaching his fiduciary duty. A few days later, a group of investors loyal to Kalanick filed an amicus brief in support of him and against Benchmark. Yep. So, that's what's going on. That's how that went down. So, and here's another thing that's interesting about the story, because people have looked at the new CEO with a lot of skepticism, myself included. Because after all of this, the new CEO has to be a better guy, but people have wondered, how much did Kalanick have to say in the new CEO becoming the CEO? Was Dara picked with his involvement, or was he picked without his involvement? Well, this part of the article states that too. Although he no longer came into the office, Kalanick managed to keep himself in the middle of the company's affairs. He lobbied for his own pick as successor, former General Electrico Jeffrey Immelt. Remember him? I made some videos about him too. The Uber directors would have none of that. They suspect that Kalanick had secured agreements from Immelt to serve for only 2 years, paving the way for his jobs-like return. And this may even explain when Travis Kalanick said, "I'm Steve Jobsing it." Like, he felt he was going to hire someone to basically be a placeholder for a couple of years, and then he was going to take the position back over. But here's the fun part of the article. Kalanick also flew to Seattle to interview a wild card candidate referred to by investor TPG, Expedia Inc. CEO Dara K., who later marveled to friends that it certainly felt like Kalanick was still in charge. Yeah. I guess Kalanick did have a say in Dara being hired as CEO. He just did. He was like, it's like, but it does say in this article, however, that the board did like Dara. They like the fact that they were impressed by him because he provided he impressed the board with a thoughtful PowerPoint presentation that included a slide that read there can only be one CEO at a time. It's like Dara was all that Kalanick wasn't or couldn't be. Humble, a good listener, and a diplomat. In a pointed reversal of Kalanick's mantra, he would say, "We don't have a PR problem, we have an us problem. We have behaved poorly." And when the City of London revoked Uber's operating license in September, Dara visited, met with taxi regulators, and published an open letter. On behalf of Uber globally, I apologize. We will appeal this decision on behalf of millions of Londoners, but we do so with the knowledge that we must also change. And it is now Dara's responsibility to fix the legal problems, drive Uber to profitability, and fix the relationship with the drivers, and gear towards an IPO. And I hope he can do all of that, because it would be nice. Now then, here's the fun part. Because some people keep wondering how much control Kalanick has. Well, I guess this is the meat of the story. Travis Kalanick no longer has super voting shares thanks to the SoftBank deal. The SoftBank deal was a pretty much desperate attempt to get him out of the company and to invest at least a little bit of capital in Uber. It's a huge gamble, though, because by owning 70%, SoftBank can call a lot of shots that Uber might have to concede to. Also, they have a new COO, Barney Harford. And for those of you who want to know how much influence Kalanick had on that hiring, let me show you. Uber's new COO, Barney Harford, says he was hired without ever meeting him. There you go. So we're starting to see key people hired who have no connections to Kalanick, which can only be a good thing. Now, I always like to find out what happened to someone. What happened after the fact? So some of you are probably not very interested in what Kalanick is doing now. Many of you believe he can go rot in hell. I know you believe that. But what does Travis Kalanick do these days? Well, according to the article, friends say he's trying to keep busy. He's setting up a family office and spending time with his father in Los Angeles. And he's getting very good at 2048, the single-player smartphone puzzle game. Seriously, it looks like this is what he does nowadays. Just plays his little smartphone game. I don't know, there's just... I don't feel sorry for him, but there's just something intrinsically lonely about that. That's all you do. You just play a smartphone. So, I'm going to link to the article below. I skimmed over a lot of it, but it is a fascinating read. It is a fascinating read. And I have to say, I kind of hope this is the last time I have to talk about this guy. because some people have been getting in the comment section. They don't like it when I talk about Kalanick. They don't like when I make videos about Travis Kalanick, and I understand why. The guy definitely screwed us. So I think part of this live stream, and maybe at some point an edited version of this live stream that's probably 10 minutes shorter, I'm hoping that this can be the final thing I have to say about him, because I'm pretty much done with the guy, to be honest. I think he started a great company and he continued to ruin it. And the truly changed Uber for the better will take a long time, and I don't even know if they'll get there at that point. So I hope I don't have to talk about him anymore, but he'll probably invest in some entrepreneurial app again, and then we'll be here again. I'll be covering it and discussing it. So, anyway, we're officially done with the scripted part of the live stream. So, before I head away, does anyone have any thoughts on this? Does anyone have any questions? Jason says, I understand the sentiment to not talk about him more, but the story will live on. And yeah, probably. Probably. Dark Road Run says, Kalanick is the past, drivers are the future. Well, the drivers were always the future. And by the way, on a side note, Uber's new CEO said the driverless cars are coming. When are they coming? 10 years. 10 years. Or is he talking about the... Let me actually double check this story to just make sure I got that correct. So helpful to... Has anyone heard anything about the driver advisory board meeting? The answer is no, but they released a picture. So if anyone from that picture wants to... Okay, I take that back. Uber CEO predicts the US will have flying cars within 10 years. I'm very skeptical about the flying car. But hey, that's an improvement. I mean, originally they were saying 2021, they're gonna be here, and now the CEO's like, nope, 10 years. 10 years is just long enough for people to forget that you ever made such a wild claim in the first place. So, anyway. So yeah, we don't know anything about the driver advisory meeting. If anyone from the advisory meeting is seeing this, I will gladly interview you. I'm sure everyone would like to know what happened in that. Oh yes, yeah, Dark Road. I saw that. I saw your intro video. Yeah, that's yeah. If any drivers want to hook up with Dark Road Run, he wants to do like 180 interviews with Uber drivers. I think that's a fantastic idea. So, Robin says drones for food, pets, humans. Well, the drones were supposed to be here in 2011, and I think we're a little late on those. I don't think whoever controls the airspace would ever approve the drones. But that's a personal thought. What meeting? I think it doesn't exist. I'm still skeptical that the meeting actually happened, but apparently Uber showed off a picture with the CEO with a bunch of people, said these are the drivers we selected to come and talk to me, and it's like, that's nice. What did you talk about? I can tell you most of the people in that picture, I don't know, they don't look like drivers. And I wish I could show you the image, but it's a live stream. And I might make a video about that anyway, who knows. So many videos to make, topics to make videos about. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. So, I don't know. Someone mentioned in live chat that Uber is getting rid of Surge. What is your opinion? My opinion on that... Yeah, he's probably gone because, he said that they announced something this morning on the app, which I drove this morning, believe it or not. So I didn't see this, but apparently they're changing the surge. But I'm looking up the news now, but yeah, I can't find anything that that states that they changed the surge. I know Uber wants to change it though. I know that they want to change it to this flat extra amount of money where they give you either $2 or $5 or $10 for the entire trip. And I bet you they would still charge the passengers the multiplier. And my opinion of it is, yeah, no, that ain't happening with me. That ain't happening with me. So I'm just, yeah. If they do that, they're going to have a mass exodus like they have never felt before. So, but I didn't see it in the app. I just looked on Bing and Google News. Did not see anything about that. So, I don't think it's changing right away, but I know that they want to change it. So, anyway. Any other questions? I'm going for 40 minutes, so... Yeah, don't make the drivers mad. Well, they make the drivers mad all the time. It's just... 3 years ago, they could afford to make the drivers mad. Now, now they're kind of running out of people to drive for them, so that's why they're kind of like starting to bend over backwards. Like, oh no, 180 a day, we're changing. Yeah, we're going to change every way except pay you more money. So, all right, well, I think this has been a fun live stream. I might try to edit this into a more proper video, who knows, but, we'll see. What are your other channels? Okay, my other channels are Kevin T. Rodriguez, Aspie on YouTube, and Autograph Hound, which I believe they are all linked in the descriptions below, so you can just check those out and subscribe there if you want. So, yeah, that's non-Uber stuff you can look at. So, if you want, it's I mean just personal stuff really. But anyway, okay. Thank you, JC. Thank you, Miss Texas. All you guys have a great day, and I will see you later. Have a good one. Flame response. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay. I will tell Katie that we need a video from her. But she's not into this like I am. So, I mean, she's very photogenic and she's very, she likes to be in front of the camera but doesn't like to make videos. So, anyway, but I will pass along the message. So, see you guys later. Have a good one.